Hey guys, my name is Jalen Verser and I am a student at William Jewell College. I'm a nonprofit leadership major with a double minor in entrepreneurial leadership and communication. I'm also the creator of a communications blog known as It's Common Sense. This blog is dedicated to addressing issues and misconceptions that occur in the realm of communication. Because communication is a part of our daily lives, it is important to know how to increase the effectiveness of our communication, as well as be aware of how our communication may be perceived. Today, we will be talking about power and status and how they can be a barrier to effective communication. First of all, it is important to note that regardless of one's status in an organization, one is not exempt from receiving the minimum level of communication that an organization may have to offer. Whether this comes in the form of weekly emails, newsletters, or memos, it doesn't matter. One's status does not exempt them from receiving at least that minimum level of communication. The trend in organizations has been that as one's status increases, their level of communication received will increase as well. One may note that this trend is similar to what goes on in the school system. The school system is similar to the workplace in the sense that they both incorporate system and levels of promotion. In the school system, this is viewed as one progresses from first grade to second grade to third grade to fourth grade and so on and so forth. However, one cannot progress to the next level or be promoted without demonstrating that they have acquired certain skills. This level of skill that one has to demonstrate depends on the grade and the tasks that are associated with that grade. But one would notice that as the grade increases, things such as homework, the difficulty in task, as well as the overall responsibility increase as well. In the workplace, this is seen in a variety of ways. The first being that when it comes to being promoted, one is not promoted just because. One is promoted because of their capacity to handle certain tasks as well as the abilities that they have acquired. Going back to the analogy of the school system, it does make sense how and why people of higher status end up receiving more communication. More communication in organizations is directed to higher status persons than to those of lower status. This means that as one gets promoted or advances through the grades, or however you want to look at it, there is potential for one to become overloaded with communication. This is often a problem that occurs in organizations. Communication overload is a problem because it affects the quality of communication. In fact, as perceived status differential increases between supervisor and subordinate, the quality of communication decreases. This statement directly addresses some of the myths and misconceptions that occur in the realm of communication. Some of the myths that it addresses include communication will solve all of our problems, that communication is a good thing, and that the more communication, the better. These myths are proven to be false in a variety of ways. The first being, communication will not solve all of our problems. If communication were the solution to all of our problems, there would not be an issue with communication overload. But there is an issue with communication overload. When communication overload occurs, the quality of communication diminishes. This is an issue. One may not be as effective in their communication if the quality of their communication diminishes. Furthermore, communication is a good thing. This is the second myth that this statement addresses. Communication is not necessarily a good thing. Communication, first of all, is a skill. It can be used for good or for bad. But if the quality of the communication is diminishing or it is negative, then how can one say that communication is a good thing? One is not effectively communicating what they may have had to say. The last myth that it addresses is that the more communication, the better. Communication overload is an issue that occurs because of more communication. Oftentimes, it occurs because of perceived status differential or the responsibilities that come with increased status. However, it does not alleviate the point that the more communication, the better. In fact, in this case, the more communication, the worse. Given that communication overload is a negative thing, there are several ways that an employee can choose to handle communication overload. The first of several strategies of handling communication overload include omission. Omission is the process by which an employee omits handling some of the information. This can include deleting emails or disregarding information that might not seem to be important. The second method involved in handling communication overload involves an employee using a filtering system. The basis behind the filtering system is that an employee would let things sort themselves out on their own. For example, if there were a task or an email associated with a project that had a deadline, if the employee were not able to effectively handle that project, one thing that they could choose to do is to let the project hit the deadline, and then they would not have to worry about the project anymore. This strategy is not recommended on my end. I do not recommend this strategy at all. The third strategy that I will discuss in regards to communication overload includes the employee approximating their work. The theory of approximation pretty much says that an employee will do things halfway even though they have the intention of doing the work well. This can occur because there's so much work to do, and that in order to get done with all the work, one may have to cut corners. The fourth strategy that I will discuss involves an employee prioritizing their work. By prioritizing their work and their communication, one knows what's important and what's not as important. Because they know this, they are then able to plan out which task they need to do first, which task will require the most amount of time, and they will be able to effectively handle the workload that may be in front of them. The fifth strategy associated with handling communication overload includes planning ahead. Planning ahead can have a lot of benefits. Planning ahead lets you know what task you need to complete, the responsibilities that you have, and it offers you a chance to handle the load responsibly, effectively, and efficiently. By planning ahead, one knows the load that they will have to take on. That means that if extra work is needed, they'll know. It means that things such as priority, the deadlines, things of that nature are taken into consideration, and they are evaluated somewhat on a priority level. The sixth strategy used in effectively handling communication overload includes delegating. Delegating is a really common response to handling communication overload. All CEOs can't handle the level of communication that they receive. All doctors cannot handle the level of communication that they receive. Therefore, in the process of delegation, a member or employee would delegate the task or communication to another competent person. It is important to mention another competent person because we would want the job done in a way that satisfies the same expectations that the work will be completed as if you were doing it. Some examples of delegating include using an assistant or just realigning resources. Overall, these methods of handling communication overload can be effective in alleviating communication overload, but all of them are not the most effective. As hard as it may be for a person in power or a person of status to effectively handle communication overload, the ramifications can be equally as difficult on the part of the employee. An employee may be seeking honest feedback or just details on an assignment, but if the superior is not able to effectively communicate these things because of omission or a filtering system or approximation, it can be hard for an employee to effectively receive the information that they need in order to either better themselves or complete various tasks. Two ways in which an employee could increase the likelihood that they will be acknowledged is by being clear, short, and concise, by using detailed subject lines when it comes to email. Because email dominates a lot of the communication that occurs in the business place, by providing a detailed subject line, one avoids the chances of getting ignored. By being clear, short, and concise, one is able to get directly to the point and avoid a lot of the chatter that goes on so that one can get what they need and be gone. Power and status definitely can be barriers to effective communication. As we have seen, there are a variety of ways in order to handle communication overload, as well as a variety of methods that an employee can use to get the attention of their superior. Well, this is it, guys. I want to thank you for checking out my first communication video blog. I hope you liked it. If not, leave a comment below and let me know what I can do to improve. Thank you.